Estonian, eesti keel, ėesti, is the official language of Estonia, spoken natively by about 922,000 people in Estonia and 160,000 outside Estonia. It belongs to the Finnic branch of the Uralic language family. One distinctive feature that has caused a great amount of interest among linguists is what is traditionally seen as 3 degrees of phonemic length: short, long, and overlong, such that per second d, and per second d are distinct. In actuality, the distinction is not purely in the phonemic length, and the underlying phonological mechanism is still disputed. Classification: Estonian belongs to the Finnic branch of the Uralic languages, along with Finnish, Karelian, and other nearby languages. The Uralic languages do not belong to the Indo-European languages. Estonian is distantly related to Hungarian and to the Sami languages. Estonian has been influenced by Swedish, German, initially Middle Low German, which was the lingua franca of the Hanseatic League and spoken natively in the territories of what is today known as Estonia by a sizable burgher community of Baltic Germans. Later Estonian was also influenced by Standard German and Russian, though it is not related to them genetically. Like Finnish and Hungarian, Estonian is a predominantly agglutinative language, but unlike them, it has lost vowel harmony, the front vowels occurring exclusively on the first stressed syllable, although in older texts the vowel harmony can still be recognized. Furthermore, the apocope of word final sounds is extensive and has contributed to a shift from a purely agglutinative to a fusional language. The basic word order is subject-verb-object. History: the two different historical Estonian languages, sometimes considered dialects, the North and South Estonian languages, are based on the ancestors of modern Estonians' migration into the territory of Estonia in at least 2 different waves, both groups speaking considerably different Finnic vernaculars. Modern Standard Estonian has evolved on the basis of the dialects of Northern Estonia. The domination of Estonia after the Northern Crusades, from the 13th century to 1918 by Denmark, Germany, Sweden, and Russia delayed indigenous literacy in Estonia. The oldest written records of the Finnic languages of Estonia date from the 13th century. Originates Livonian Chronicle of Henry of Livonia contains Estonian place names, words and fragments of sentences. Estonian literature. The earliest extant samples of connected North Estonian are the so-called Kalamaar prayers dating from 1524 and 1528. In 1525 the first book published in the Estonian language was printed. The book was a Lutheran manuscript, which never reached the reader and was destroyed immediately after publication. The first extant Estonian book is a bilingual German-Estonian translation of the Lutheran Catechism, by S. Wanraat and J. ʻkeːl dating to 1535. During the Protestant Reformation period, an Estonian grammar book to be used by priests was printed in German in 1637. The New Testament was translated into Southern Estonian in 1686. Northern Estonian, 1715. The two languages were united based on Northern Estonian by Anton Thorhell. Writings in Estonian became more significant in the 19th century during the Estophile Enlightenment period, 1750–1840. The birth of native Estonian literature was in 1810 to 1820 when the patriotic and philosophical poems by Christian Jaak Peterson were published. Peterson, who was the first student at the then German-language University of Dorpat to acknowledge his Estonian origin, is commonly regarded as a herald of Estonian national literature and considered the founder of modern Estonian poetry. His birthday on March 14 is celebrated in Estonia as the Mother Tongue Day. A fragment from Peterson's poem, Kuu, expresses the claim re-establishing the birthright of the Estonian language. Kas sislmaa keel. Laulatuls ei voi, taravani tust juuls, igaviku omale ʻeːsti. In English, can the language of this land, in the wind of incantation, rising up to the heavens, not seek for eternity. Christian Jaak Peterson. From 1525 to 1917, 14503 titles were published in Estonian, as opposed to the 23,868 titles which were published between 1918 and 1940. In modern times, Jaan Kross and Jaan Kaplanski remain as two of Estonia's best-known and most translated writers. State language. Writings in Estonian became significant only in the 19th century with the spread of the ideas of the Age of Enlightenment. During the Estophile Enlightenment period, 1750–1840, although Baltic Germans at large regarded the future of Estonians as being a fusion with themselves, the Estophile educated class admired the ancient culture of the Estonians in their era of freedom, before the conquests by Danes and Germans in the 13th century. After the Estonian War of Independence in 1919, the Estonian language became the state language of the newly independent country. In 1945, 97.3% of Estonia considered itself ethnic Estonian and spoke the language. When Estonia was invaded and occupied by the Soviet Union in World War II, the status of the Estonian language changed to the first of two official languages, Russian being the other one. As with Latvia, many immigrants entered Estonia under Soviet encouragement. In the second half of the 1970s, the pressure of bilingualism for Estonians intensified, resulting in widespread knowledge of Russian throughout the country. The Russian language was termed as the language of friendship of nations and was taught to Estonian children, sometimes as early as in kindergarten. Although teaching Estonian to non-Estonians in schools was compulsory, in practice learning the language was often considered unnecessary. During the Perestroika era, the law on the status of the Estonian language was adopted in January 1989. The 1991 collapse of the Soviet Union led to the restoration of Republic of Estonia's independence. Estonian went back to being the only state language in Estonia, which in practice meant the use of Estonian was promoted while the use of Russian was discouraged. The return of Soviet immigrants to their countries of origin has brought the proportion of Estonians in Estonia back above 70%. And again, as in Latvia. Today many of the remnant non-Estonians in Estonia have adopted the Estonian language. About 40% at the 2000 census. Dialects. The Estonian dialects are divided into two groups, the northern and southern dialects, historically associated with the cities of Tallinn in the north and Tartu in the south, in addition to a distinct Kerdõrani dialect, that of the northeastern coast of Estonia. The northern group consists of the Keskmaa, a central dialect that is also the basis for the standard language. The Läänemaa, a western dialect, roughly corresponding to Läänemaa and Pärnumaa. The Sääďmaa Islands dialect of Saaremaa and Hiiumaa, and the Idamaa, or eastern dialect on the northwestern shore of Lake Peipsi. The southern group, South Estonian language, consists of the Tartu, Mulgi, Võru, Võro, and Setu dialects. These are sometimes considered either variants of a South Estonian language, or separate languages altogether. Also, Setu and Võro distinguish themselves from each other less by language and more by their culture, and the respective Christian confession. Writing system. Alphabet. Like Finnish, Estonian employs the Latin script as the basis for its alphabet. which adds the letters a, o, u, and o, plus the later additions s and z. The letters c, q, w, x and y are limited to proper names of foreign origin, and f, z, s, and z appear in loanwords and foreign names only. O and U are pronounced similarly to their equivalents in Swedish and German, unlike in Standard German but like Finnish and Swedish. When followed by R, A is pronounced A, as in English mat. The vowels A, O and U are clearly separate phonemes and inherent in Estonian, although the letter shapes come from German. The letter O denotes unrounded O, or a close mid-back unrounded vowel. It is almost identical to the Bulgarian and the Vietnamese O, and is used to transcribe the Russian orthography, although the Estonian orthography is generally guided by phonemic principles, with each grapheme corresponding to one phoneme. There are some historical and morphological deviations from this. For example, preservation of the morpheme and declension of the word, writing b, g, d in places where p, k, t is pronounced, and in the use of I and j, where it is very impractical or impossible to type s and z. They are substituted with sh and zh in some written texts, although this is considered incorrect. Otherwise, the h in sh represents a voiceless glottal fricative, as in pasha, paha. This also applies to some foreign names. Modern Estonian orthography is based on the newer orthography created by Eduard Ahrens in the second half of the 19th century based on Finnish orthography. The older orthography it replaced was created in the 17th century by Bengt Gottfried Forselius and Johann Hornung based on Standard German orthography. Earlier writing in Estonian had by and large used in ad hoc orthography based on Latin and Middle Low German orthography. Some influences of the Standard German orthography, for example, writing w instead of v, persisted well into the 1930s. It should be noted that Estonian words and names quoted in international publications from Soviet sources are often back transliterations from the Russian transliteration. Examples are the use of ya for a, e, g, pianu instead of panu, y instead of o, e, g, pylva instead of pulver, and u instead of u, e, g, piracy instead of pussy. Even in the Encyclopedia Britannica one can find Ostrov Kuma, where Ostrov means island in Russian and Kuma is back transliteration from Russian instead of Hiiumaa, greater than Kuma. Phonology. There are 9 vowels and 36 diphthongs, 28 of which are native to Estonian. 1. All 9 vowels can appear as the first component of a diphthong, but only e, I, o, u occur as the second component. A vowel characteristic of Estonian is the unrounded back vowel, which may be mid-back, close-back, or mid-central. Grammar. Typologically, Estonian represents a transitional form from an agglutinating language to a fusional language. The canonical word order is SVO. Subject, verb, object. In Estonian, nouns and pronouns do not have grammatical gender, but nouns and adjectives decline in 14 cases: nominative, genitive, partitive, illative, anessive, elative, allative, adessive, ablative, translative, terminative, essive, abessive, and commutative, with the case and number of the adjective s always agreeing with that of the noun, except in the terminative, essive, abessive and commutative, where there is agreement only for the number, the adjective being in the genitive form. Thus the illative for Colin Mayer, a yellow house, is kolasesi magia, into a yellow house, but the terminative is koles madani, as far as a yellow house. With respect to the Proto-Finnic language, elision has occurred. Thus, the actual case marker may be absent, but the stem is changed. Cf. Maya, Madja, and the Ostrobothnia dialect of Finnish Maya, Madjahan. The direct object of the verb appears either in the accusative, for total objects, or in the partitive, for partial objects. The accusative coincides with the genitive in the singular and with nominative in the plural. Accusative versus partitive case opposition of the object used with transitive verbs creates a telicity contrast. Just as in Finnish, this is a rough equivalent of the perfective versus imperfective aspect opposition. The verbal system lacks a distinctive future tense. The present tense serves here, and features special forms to express an action performed by an undetermined subject. The impersonal vocabulary. Although the Estonian and Germanic languages are of very different origins, one can identify many similar words in Estonian and English. For example, this is primarily because the Estonian language has borrowed nearly one-third of its vocabulary from Germanic languages, mainly from Low Saxon, Middle Low German, during the period of German rule, and High German, including Standard German. The percentage of Low Saxon and High German loanwords can be estimated at 22 to 25%, with Low Saxon making up about 15%. Often, b and p are interchangeable. For example, baggage becomes pagas, lob, to throw becomes lupima. The initial letter s before another consonant is often dropped. For example, school becomes school. Stool becomes tool. Ex nihilo lexical enrichment. Estonian language planners such as Adu Grenstein, a journalist active in Estonia in the 1870s-90s, tried to use formation ex nihilo, erschaffung, i.e., they created new words out of nothing. The most famous reformer of Estonian, Johannes Arvik, 1880 to 1973, used creations ex nihilo, cf. Free constructions, Tali 1977, along with other sources of lexical enrichment such as derivations, compositions and loanwords, often from Finnish, cf. Saarest and Rawn 1965, 76, in Arvik's Dictionary, 1921, which lists approximately 4,000 words. There are many words which were, allegedly, created ex nihilo, many of which are in common use today. Examples are ʻeÄsi, object, kolp, skull, liabuma, to cling, narasma, to return, come back, gnome, stupid, dull. Single quote. Many of the coinages that have been considered, often by Arvik himself, as words concocted ex nihilo could well have been influenced by foreign lexical items. For example, words from Russian, German, French, Finnish, English and Swedish. Arvik had a broad classical education and knew ancient Greek, Latin and French. Consider roim, crime, versus English crime atornima, to condemn. Disapprove versus Finnish tuomita, to condemn. To judge. These Arvikisms appear in Arvik's 1921 dictionary. These words might be better regarded as a peculiar manifestation of morphophonemic adaptation of a foreign lexical item. Language example. Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in Estonian. See also the Babel speech corpus. References. Bibliography. Zuckerman, Gilad, 2003. Jones, Charles, ed. Language Contact and Lexical Enrichment in Israeli Hebrew. Palgrave Studies in Language History and Language Change. Hound Mills. Palgrave Macmillan. ISBN 1-4039-1723-X. Further reading. ASU. Evelina. Terras. Paya. 2009. Estonian. Journal of the International Phonetic Association. 39. 3. 367 to 372. DOI 10.1017 per seconds 002510030999017 Ross, John. Lehist. Ilse. 2001. The Temporal Structure of Estonian Runic Songs. The Hague. Walter de Gruyter. External links. Estonica. Org article.